Well, hello everyone. I hope all is doing great and everyone's had a fantastic Mother's Day. Wow, we've got a bunch of people joining in today here. Board Gaming Binge. Hello, Shangy Girl. How's it going? Hope all is well. You're the only one in the lobby right now. We just started live. Hopefully we have some other people join us. But here to answer any questions you may have on Cities of Venus, Tin Robot Games, Board Game Binge, literally anything you want to talk about, hit me with it. Drop your comments or drop your questions in the comments. Oh, we just lost you. That's awesome. All right, well, I'm going to speak into the ether, I guess, for now, and we'll see if anybody ends up joining us. To start off with, I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to go over our campaign. So we're going to go through our campaign page. I think that's a good place to start. No, not that one. There we go. All right, so this is our campaign page. Cities of Venus. A little bit slower day today. Each day we've been tracking around 1,500 to 2,000 in new pledges. We lost some people today, been trying to get them back. So we're up about $500 today. Of course, we still got another hour and a half to go, so we might have some more people come in, but that's where we're at for today. And very excited about tomorrow. We have our next chapter of Cities of Venus Chronicles that are coming out. That's going to be chapter 3. And then we're 24 hours away from when we do our next big reveal on this campaign, and very excited about the next reveal. It's a really good one. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to get people excited, and hopefully anybody sitting on the fence sees that we've got lots of goodies coming, still to come, and jump back in. So that's going to be tomorrow. This campaign. Man, we're almost at the halfway mark. I can't believe it already. I am super humbled by the fact that we're sitting at $93,500, closing in on 6 figures, which is just unbelievable. I can't believe that we're there, and quite frankly, might hit that potentially by the end of next week. We're going to see, but massive milestone for us. We're going to see how that goes. For those of you who don't know what Cities of Venus is, it's a Kickstarter campaign that we're running, and this is a medium light Euro game. It looks more complicated than it is. Actually, I've heard some people say it's deceptively simple. So once you go through a round, you can pick this game up pretty quick, and but it's a lot of fun. Gosh, you've got this lots of huge production value around the different components and so forth. The game itself. Is you are trying to have your city survive and do the upkeep and try to upgrade it and bring immigration in that Earth is sending you in the form of these cloud drops. And along the way, bad stuff is happening. So you have events constantly happening. You have your shields that are eroding. You have to try to grow your population. You're trying to innovate so you can get some upgrades that are even more powerful than what Earth is sending that you can then plug into your board to give you kind of an advantage. You have multiple city actions. You can do everything from installing reserve canisters from prior rounds to, as I said, innovating. You can do your mining, which involves the dice mech and rolling your ore die to try to see how many mineral points you can get. And then lastly, you can also buy immigration. And there's some upgrade cards too that those cards will come into effect during the city action phase. At the last step, everyone takes a turn in player order. So everything else is simultaneous up until this point. And then in the last step, you go in player turn order. And at that point, you are choosing a canister that's come from Earth. And you, if you can pay for it right away, great. You can install it into your board or activate it right away. If not, you can reserve it and then do that when you can afford it in a later round. Has an additional cost of an additional miner if you're going to, additional mechanic if you're going to try to install it in a later phase. But it does give the opportunity to grab a canister you really want if you don't have the resources to grab it right away. The end game is triggered when the Earth card comes up, and the Earth card signifies that you've lost contact. Something's happened, you don't know what, and when this card comes up sometime in the third phase, it triggers the end of the game, and you go to your end game point scoring. we've got a lot of cool stuff. So far, we've revealed that we have a solo mode coming. That's been developed. Joe Slack, who's a prolific game designer and has done solo design, is just putting the finishing touches on that. Our next reveal is coming on Tuesday. We'll have another one a week Tuesday, and then potentially we're going to have a fourth one. I got to hear back from the factory, and they're supposed to get back to me on Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. As soon as I know that I can do what I want to do, then I'm going to announce there's going to be a fourth reveal. And that'll be literally the day before our campaign ends. Lots of really high quality stuff in the box. If you're whether doing a 4-player or 6-player version of this game, those are the 2 different pledge levels. It comes with a neoprene stitch mat, these dice mechs. You get 4 of those in each box, or 6 if you've got the 6-player game. These quad layer boards, which allow you to plug your different components into the board in all different places. Tons and tons of cards through innovations, events, and cloud drops. You have these mini International Innovation Station boards where you place your meeples, and once you get 8 there, that's when you cash it in and get an upgrade. Tons and tons of meeples. You got 200 in the base game, and then the 6-player version expands up to 250 meeples. You got acrylic gems. You got these marble dice, D6 dice. You've got these rocket-shaped trays, these volcano-shaped trays that hold the gems. Spot UV varnish on the box. Right now, the draft book is 8 pages. You can download it right off our Kickstarter page. We're likely going to end at about 12 pages on this for this particular book. Inside the box is printed, and then you get a whole bunch of other stuff again if you want to do the 6-player version. And we have a side-by-side chart, but it's roughly 110 more components. We do have a first-player mini add-on that you can add on. It just kind of enhances the game. It comes in standard grade. You can paint that yourself. Lots and lots of reviews and previews on our page in multiple languages, which is awesome. We've added a few more over the weekend, which is great. We had the Board Game Museum. We got theirs. We had, is it Board to Game or Love to Hate Board Games? What's it called? Love to Hate. Yeah. Love to Hate board games. And so it's really cool. Their whole concept is they have a person who's a gamer, and then I believe they're husband and wife. His wife is a non-gamer. And the two of them will actually look at games and then compare and contrast and give their feedback, which is kind of a cool hook. So we've added them in the page as well over the weekend. And that's the page. We're very excited. I want to remind people that we do have a tabletop simulator version of this game. Feel free to play it if you want. Hey, Nathan. Welcome to the party. I think it's a party of one right now, my friend, but I can't really tell who's in the chat right now. Talking about Cities of Venus. This is your opportunity to ask me literally any question you have. I am at your disposal. I was just saying that right now we've got people that want to try Cities of Venus. They can play it through Tabletop Simulator. There's quite frankly, a link right on our page. And then if you join our Discord server, you can... Stephen Hill, how's it going, buddy? I'm going to show you some artwork in a second, so stay joined, Stephen, because I've been working on some artwork this weekend for a game that we were just playing 2 days ago. So the Tabletop Simulator, you can access it right from this page, and everything's automated, really awesome to play. Discord server, you can talk with people while you play. I'm looking for someone to say they want to play this game with me. I am excited to set up some play testing with anybody that wants to play virtually. Of course, I'd love it if you'd back the game. But certainly if you want to play test virtually, that would be just super, super awesome. All right. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, predominantly because we only have a handful of people in here. So I'm going to talk about another game that we're working on. Right now it's called Time Splicers. That name's kind of like a placeholder. We're probably going to change it, but it is it works for now. So let me just turn this off. Okay, so I'm back. So Time Splicers is a new card game I've been working on, and I've been play testing with friends, family. Brought to the Newmarket Board Game Meetup group. Stephen Hill, if you're still, I think you're still in the lobby. You got a chance to play it, and maybe we did least. We might have lost Stephen. I don't know. Give me a thumbs up if you're in the lobby. Anybody. And so we're going to be taking it to Protospiel in Toronto here in gosh, in June 10th. So that's next month, so almost 4 weeks from now. And I want to have, I like when I do any kind of game design, I love to have just an initial visual version of the game to kind of start setting the story. And a good way to do that, quite frankly, is using AI art. I know there's a lot of people that hate AI art, and I actually don't even refer to it as art. I refer to it as graphic design. But it is a great tool for when you're prototyping and getting people to play test something. I find personally that people are more interested and more engaged if they can kind of see the story in front of them. Of course, you can still do that with hand-drawn cards or clip art and things like that. But if you have tools that can make that look as good as possible for your play testing, that's even better. And usually you can get more people who actually want to try and play the game and see what it's about. So over the weekend, I've been working on some digital art or AI graphic design on an initial layout of what these cards would look like. And I'm going to share them right now, quite frankly. And again, don't know who's here. Stephen Hill, don't know if you're still in there. If you are, give me a thumbs up. Or Nathan Patty, give me a thumbs up. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Just smash that thumbs up button so I know that there's anybody listening and I'm not just talking into the ether. All right, so let's see here. I'm just going to turn this guy off and I'm going to turn this guy on. All right. So the whole idea behind this game is that you are trying to, there's been, the singularities occurred, okay? And around the same time singularity occurs, humans have invented time travel. And you are a set of kind of time fixers that are trying to fix the timeline and trying to correct the timeline that led to the singularity happening. Because the singularity in this case is bad. And you're hoping that maybe the singularity would be good. So you're going through time, you're hopping back and forth through time, you're collapsing these kind of offshoots that keep springing up because again, with this, not again, but with the singularity that caused all these offshoots and things like that. And as you're trying to jump through and try to close things, other offshoots are creating and you're trying to collapse timelines. And that's kind of your goal. And the person who can kind of earn the most kind of victory points, we call them kind of, I keep saying kind of, we call them time badges. You earn the most time badges, you win. Right, and so the first person to, I believe it's 7, wins the game. And this is kind of the draft version we have of this game right now. So what you see here is this is these different eras. So the card 1 I've created, and again, was really good about using AI, and I used Midjourney for these, is you can have them all fit the same style. So these all look like they're part of the same family. And versus just going on the internet and grabbing stand-in images, it's much easier to describe what you want, have Midjourney spit it out, and then have Midjourney keep matching that style so that the whole set kind of looks like it plays together. So let me I'm gonna find it where I'm at here. There we are. Okay, we still got Stephen is here. Okay, cool, awesome, buddy. So this is the Bronze Age. After the Bronze Age, we've got, let me see if I can move it here, Iron Age. So I've created like these little portals. This is like a little graphic element. It's like an SVG graphical element on top of these cards. And of course, you see the border. That just shows kind of the safety area. The blue dotted line's the safety area. They'll have like a gray border, so you can't see what card's coming up next. So that's why the whole outer edge is one continuous color. The red line indicates what's being cut out. And then I've got, in case you pick up the card in a different way, you can still read off what the number is. And it's easy when you're playing against another person on the other side of the table. I create these little arrows to kind of signify that time's going forward, time's going, if I can move my face here. There you go. Time's going back, so you're going forward, back. And then it's got the darker arrow pointing up and pointing down. And that indicates that time can split. So you've played this game, Steven, so I know you know what I'm talking about. All right, so that's the Iron Age. Then we go into the Ancient Rome. I didn't put dates on here because I thought that'd be confusing. I thought it'd be simpler just to put numbers, because as you know, in this game, you're trying to kind of figure out the sequences and set things up either going forward or back. And I thought it'd be easier just to pick straight numbers than to put dates in here. But people can see that there's different eras, right? Then we have the Middle Ages, which is darker in tone. Then we get into the Renaissance. There's some pastel tones, notes that are kind of put in there. Then we have the Age of Exploration. And then we've got the Industrial Revolution. You have the locomotive. We have the Victorian era. I guess I'd say not area. Era. World War I. So you have trench warfare. Then we've got World War II, which ended in the A-bomb and started the whole nuclear era. Then we start changing in tone because we're going into the digital age. And from the digital age, we get to the singularity. And the singularity is kind of this AI, all these things are starting to form and it's starting to coalesce to that self-awareness, intelligence, which some of the images I was looking at, I was creating, were kind of like androids, like looking like a super intelligent android. But I think the singularity isn't necessarily going to start with robots. I believe the singularity will be an intelligence that's everywhere all at once because it has access to the internet, to power lines, to literally anything that's connected. That I think will drive the singularity. So that's what this is. This is the image of the singularity. And I still haven't created the there's a couple other cards. So there's the time tunnels. I'm going to, although you have lightning bolt using to do time jumps, I'm going to actually throw a couple time jump cards into the deck as well. We talked about time freezing or time fixing cards, so I got to figure out how to create those. They're all, yeah, I think, and then I have to do 4 other colors. And what my thought is I might take these same images and throw them into, the cool thing about Midjourney is you can say, take this image and give it to me again, but give me 4 different kind of versions of this image. So I think that could work really well where each of these timelines we have, you can see that the timelines line up. So for instance, if I go back to, I gotta find out what screen I'm on here. If I go to the World War II, right? And you've got the main timeline. This is like obviously over Hiroshima. I could try to prompt this to do the same thing, but show it over like Germany, for instance, right? So I'll have Germany in the foreground instead of Hiroshima, things like that. So slight changes on the timeline. Midjourney I literally have 4 different versions of this trench warfare shot, which are slightly different from each other, which I think could be kind of cool. So obviously we're going to change it by color and have color kind of dictate which timeline we're in, but the pictures can slightly change too, which I think would be kind of cool and engaging. So they match, but they're different. So that's kind of what we're doing for that. So that's essentially Midjourney. It is a very good tool. I've taken it one step further. So I'm using now, well, I've used ChatGPT in the past. I use ChatGPT with my job literally every single day almost. But you can now, if you have ChatGPT Plus, which I do, there's a beta running right now where you can have it access the internet and look stuff up. So that's been the one constraint of ChatGPT up to this point, is that it's all only based into the most recent information up to like 2022 or something like that, or 2021. But allowing it to access like a website, you can bring it more current. So what I was doing is I was saying, okay, ChatGPT, here's the website for Midjourney. Please study it and then let me know when you're ready. And then I want you to help me generate some prompts. So I had these different eras that I had put into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT actually helped me kind of refine some of them. And then I said, okay, for each of these eras, help me create a prompt for Midjourney to give me an image that represents that era. But make sure the prompts all are done in a way that everything is going to have the same kind of vibe and tone and look like the same artistic family. That was crazy. To see that the AI... Hey, David, how's it going? The AI can do that is... that's awesome. I mean, it's crazy. The things you can do with AI is shocking. And I think it needs to be done responsibly. There's obviously a lot of vitriol in the industry right now around use of AI for graphic design or, say, art. I've got some friends that have got some very strong opinions about it. But I think if it's done in a responsible way, it can be a cool tool. Hey, David, thanks for responding. Thanks for commenting. We're just talking about a couple things. One is our Kickstarter campaign we're running right now on Cities of Venus. Don't know if you heard of it. I can talk to you about that if you want. We also just took a segue or a slight diversion into another game we're working on right now, which is a card game, and it's about time travel. And was just talking to Stephen, who's also in the audience. Actually, Stephen just bailed. Was that AI art has been a great tool to do prototyping. So we've got these events coming up called Protospiels, and the Protospiels are essentially a place where you go and play test games that you've been working on with other people, right? And sometimes it's literally just cards you've cut out with scissors and written on, and you're trying to explain to other game designers, here's how this game works. But what I find is that you can usually get more people actually interested in playing and giving you great feedback if the thing can kind of look somewhat like a real game. So what I often do is I will, a couple years ago, what I would do is I would just go online and I would find images either on DeviantArt, Shutterstock, any kind of Getty Images. Just find images that I would find through stock art sites, right? And I'd paste them in and use those as stand-ins to kind of figure out the vibe of the kind of game I'm creating. And now with tools like Midjourney, which allows you to generate images, you can take it one step further and say, no. Instead of me trying to scour through tons of images, just trying to find the right image to match what I'm looking for. And again, this isn't like I'm publishing the game with this art. It's just so I have something for playtesting with people, so people can see the story and kind of see, okay, I see what this person's is trying to create here. So I've been using Midjourney, and it's super cool. So here's some of the artwork I had cranked out this weekend. This game, basically, it's a very simple card game, but you're jumping through different eras, and you're trying to collapse timelines. And this is just one timeline, but there'll be parallel timelines that you can split off and create parallel timelines. And then those parallel timelines, if you can jump into it and someone else is in another one, you can then try to collapse that timeline, which is kind of cool. So using Midjourney, I create these cards. The first one is the Bronze Age. Then I get into the Iron Age. Then I get into the ancient Rome. Then we go into the Middle Ages. Then we go into... using Dolly. Oh, cool. Yeah, switch over to like Midjourney. It is like a billion times better. Like a billion. It is. If you're interested, I'm going to explain a mini tutorial here for you too, which will just up your game big time. So this is the Renaissance area. Then we get into the Age of Exploration. Then we get into the Industrial Revolution. Then we get into Victorian area. Then we get into the World War I, trench warfare, World War II, which ended in the A-bomb. Of course, that's a kind of an era of technology. Then we get into the digital age and information age. And then finally we end in the singularity. So this game ends in the singularity. So what's really cool is you'll notice that all this artwork has kind of got a similar kind of feel and tone, and it feels like it's part of the same family. And for me, that's important, right? Because then it looks less like you just kind of hacked it together. Midjourney's gotten so good in Midjourney 5. So anytime you do a prompt, and there is so many tutorials online, and it's I think I pay like $10 a month. Like if you skip Starbucks once this month, you've just paid for your Midjourney. So I spend $10 a month, and there's so many things where you can type Midjourney tutorials, Midjourney 101 to get you started, and that's essentially what I did. And it gets down to your prompting and creating the right prompts, and you have kind of a description of what you want for your scene, and at the end there's certain things you can do to make it, an aspect ratio that's like a 2:3, to choose the kind of Midjourney you want, because Midjourney's it's in version 5 now, so it doesn't default to 5. You actually have to put a little mini code, which is like -- space V5 to let it know, hey, use version 5 when you create this. Otherwise, the fingers, anything that has hands, is going to have like 8 fingers on each hand, and it's going to look weird. So it is a great tool. And what I did here for this, which is a completely new thing that I hadn't done before, is I also used ChatGPT. So when I was creating this game, we created it just with playing cards to start off with, right? Because they're in sequence, so it's easy to create something that's in sequence. So I was going through the different kind of history, and so I went to ChatGPT and said, hey, I need 12 eras that represent, here's the explanation of my game, how it works. I'm looking for 12 kind of eras that I could use to represent cards, right? So it started back at like the dinosaurs. So I was thinking through, I'm like, well, I don't really want to start the dinosaurs. I kind of want to start when technology began. I thought, okay, maybe the Greeks and around the Bronze Age. So I said, okay, ChatGPT, please give me 12. I love what you did. I'm always super polite to ChatGPT. I don't know why, but it just makes me, it's almost like you get better prompts when you're polite to the machine. But I say, can you please do that again? But can you give me 12 eras that are equally spaced out, starting with the Bronze Age and ending with the Singularity? And so it did. And that's what we have here. Bronze Age, Iron Age. It basically hits all the basic notes. Never know when it's going to turn against us. That's true. Hence the singularity in this game. So once I did that, ChatGPT, if you get ChatGPT Plus, which is like $20 a month, they just announced this weekend that you can use the beta if you have the Plus, which allows you to connect it to the internet. So specific websites. You can say, ChatGPT, please look at this specific website, right? Because if you're using ChatGPT, all of its data and learning information cuts off as of 2021. So anything that's happened in the past 2 years, it doesn't know. Like, and I tried that with ChatGPT. I was like, hey, I'm trying to do these Midjourney prompts. And I always ask first, do you know what Midjourney is, right? And the thing says, I'm not sure what Midjourney is. All my data takes me to 2021. But now they've got the beta. I said, okay, ChatGPT, please go to this site, the Midjourney site, review it. I want you to learn how to write prompts, and let me know when you're ready. So the thing's kind of churning for about 40 seconds. Comes back and says, okay, what are the prompts? So I said, okay, now based on the 12 eras that we just talked about, I need artwork for each era on one card artwork for each era. Can you give me 12 prompts for Midjourney that will do that? And boom, here's prompts. Then that took me probably 5 hours, because then you have to go through each one into Midjourney. And then Midjourney gives you 4, it'll spit out kind of 4 different images. And of those 4 different, I should do one of these on Midjourney. I should do a screen share. I can't do it right now, but next stream I'm going to share a screen on Midjourney, show that process, because it's wild. But it'll give you four images, and you look at the 4 images and you say, okay, either give me the one that's the second one and upscale that so I got large, and then you can save it. Or you can say, you're kind of there on that on number 2-ish. Give me that, but I want you to go through and reiterate it now with 4 more versions, and I'll crank out 4 more versions until you get the one you want. So that's where all the time DALL-E gives you 4 options, and you need to build up. Yeah, exactly. So you refine, right? And so that's what took the most time last night. So it was like 5 hours of just going through Midjourney. But that was way faster than what this would have taken me 8 months ago or a year ago. So the technology is definitely improving. So yeah, I've been using that for these prototypes. Still, once I get this game polished, and I don't plan to release this game probably until next year, anyways. Then I'll get an artist, and I'll have but the good thing for the artist is I'll have mock-ets, right? So I'll say, well, here's my stand-in artwork. Do your style, but I want you to kind of match what we have here. This is very similar to what I did on Cities of Venus, which is behind me. I can show my Cities of Venus screen here in a second here. Let me go hide that one. All right, so let's look at Cities of Venus. Cities of Venus, which does not use AI art. It's a digital artist. He uses Procreate. And there's a lot of sketches back and forth to kind of get where I wanted to go. Wait till the screen catches up. There we are. But you look at this box. So back, we've been working on this game for like 3 years. So like 2 and a bit years ago, at the time there was like, it was even before DALL-E. It was called Wombly. It was on your phone. It was an app where you could kind of generate like AI art. And it wasn't great. But I kept doing prompts for like 2 hours where I said, I want this kind of a platform in the sky. And every time I said like a city in the sky, it kept giving me like skyscrapers like poking up through clouds. So I finally had to get to the prompts to get to something where I said like a floating platform with like pink clouds. And I finally got something that was somewhat, not really like this, but it was more like a building at least that was hovering in the sky. And then I went through Photoshop, cleaned up a bit, sent off the artist and said, okay, I want you in your style, because I love your style. Can you create, I need box art cover. Box cover art. Whatever the word is, I'm tired. The art basically for the box cover. I need this image. And here's an idea of kind of what I'm thinking, but do it in your style. So then he came back with sketches. Okay, let me sketch it first, make sure we're on the same page. So it was a lot of like just black and white on paper until we kind of landed at it. His wasn't symmetric like I have here. It was asymmetric. So a lot of back and forth till we got to kind of what we have now. And that's how we landed at this cover. But it's cool as a way of kind of guiding people. It's a good shorthand for sure. The shorthand it's about how do you improve quality and how do you assist the people that are good at this kind of stuff in a way that makes it efficient for them. And I'm sure it was easy for him to say, no, I'm kind of looking for this. Some of his pieces he sent to me, because again, I'm proficient with Photoshop and with Illustrator, not so much with InDesign, but I can kind of get by on InDesign. We did all the card artwork for this game in InDesign. But I would take his sketches and I'd go put into Photoshop and I'd move things around. Say, no, I'm kind of looking like at doing this. And then he'd go back and he'd redraw it and so forth. So anytime you can use technology as shorthand, I think that's a good thing. And I think you got to be upfront with people. I was watching, I was reading one of the Facebook groups, either yesterday or the day before. And there was a lady that was saying, hey, I've got this this game I'm working on, and I need some feedback on the card layout. And it was clear that the cards were done. You could tell some Midjourney images have a very distinct look, right? And so you could tell it was Midjourney she had used, which is fine. I mean, who cares, right? She wasn't saying, hey, we think of the art. Literally, she was just saying graphic design. Here's the way I have my text laid out. Can I get some feedback from people? And a number of people that piled on to this lady because she had the cardinal sin of using AI artwork in her game. There was a lot of vitriol, which was unfortunate. And it was funny because she's like, you know what, guys, I'm actually an artist myself. Like, I actually do drawings, and I have done drawings on prior games, but I see this as a tool that allows me to do things faster, just like Photoshop, just like Illustrator. If you go back 30 years ago, if you wanted to make package design, and you're literally laying slides on top of each other, layers, right? So you do the CMYK colors, so you'd have a plate for each one, and you stack the plates, and that's how you do your package design, right? And then the digital era got rid of all that, and now that's all just done in the computer. And yes, jobs got lost, and people had to re-pivot and move into other industries, and we're going to see something similar with this. I mean, that is clear to me that we're going to see a shift in the way people go about doing certain tasks. And unfortunately, that is going to make certain jobs redundant, and people are going to have to pivot, right? And they're going to have to say, okay, well, I can see kind of the writing on the wall. I got to kind of go in a different direction here. And copywriting is probably the biggest one I can see that's at the soonest to be eliminated, right? Like if I think even like 4 years ago, if you were doing like a magazine or something, you would actually have to hire like an editor, right, or a copywriter. Give an example. My father, he wrote a book, and he's not a writer, so he writes like he talks, and editing something like that is excruciating. Believe me, because I try to help him edit his book. It's excruciating. And when I look at his book, I actually hired an editor, and the editor took a cut at it, and she made a bunch of changes, and it was okay, the work she did. And right around that time is when ChatGPT came out. So I started taking a paragraph at a time and just spitting it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was able to rewrite that and get his thoughts across more coherently than even the editor was able to do it. And we did that for his book, just so that he could have his book. He sold like 30 copies, right? It's a very niche thing. It's about his days when he was doing retail merchandising, things like that. So it was more something he just wanted to create to get his thoughts out there. That's a job where I can see less and less people getting hired. I can guarantee you right now, if you go on Upwork, there's people who are charging to edit work. They're literally just cutting and pasting that into ChatGPT and sending it back. What's David say here? Using AI generated makes it so much faster to get the feel right. That's a very good point. That's the point right there, is to get the feel right. Up until this point, you would have to try to explain to somebody, and then using words, you have to say, well, it's not quite what I'm looking for. Or the artist would be like, well, what is it you don't like? And you're like, I don't know. I just can't put my finger on it. And they're not going to go and create 10 versions with small tweaks until they think that they're reading your mind and get to figure out the thing that you think is now working. Where the AI allows you to do that, allows you to iterate way faster. Still a big believer, though, that if you can afford an artist, after you kind of figure out the artwork and get kind of that feel and tone right, then send it over to an artist and have an artist then go and put it in their style. I still think there's some valid there. I think that's going to quickly change, but certainly right now, it'd be very difficult, I think, for somebody to do a Kickstarter with a game that is AI art. There's just too many haters out there that the negative publicity around that, I think, would be tough. I missed your other question here. So you're saying AI art can be fairly polarizing. Have you seen pushback even with the use of prototypes? Prototypes, no. I've seen zero pushback in prototypes. I had one buddy saying on one of the prototypes I had, he goes, "Oh, this is AI art." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." But what do you want? Do you want me to come with and give you a piece of paper that I've put my stickman on? Because that's the alternative. Because I'm not pumping money into this prototype until we've got the mechanics of this game worked out. Right? So I get stuff. I go use thegamecrafter.com all the time. So I can get actual cards. You can get punch outs. Even on Seas of Venus, I was able to get like a kind of a rudimentary neoprene mat that we had. It was amazing the times. And I mean, again, we didn't use AI art for that, but the point of having an actual something that's tangible. The neoprene mat we had from our game. We had I brought that to game night and for Cities of Venus, and this is the Game Crafters version, not our current stitched one, but even the one from Game Crafter. And people are like, "Holy smokes, that looks awesome! That looks awesome." Still things they can't do. They couldn't do our quad layer boards. We had to kind of make those, or I literally had to glue those myself to make prototypes of those. The dice mechs, obviously I had to use the local 3D printer for those, but the cards, they did an amazing job with the cards, neoprene matte. Meeples, they still, I don't think you can do it economically through them. The first iteration of this game is, because right now our meeples, I don't know if, again, I'll go through the game in a second, but these are the meeples from our game, right? So the little V, we call them V-Knots, and they're silver and they're painted on both sides. But before we had these, what we were using is I had, from the Game Crafter, they had these little mini meeples, just standard meeples, like the star-shaped guys, and they were painted in a they had like a plastic chrome finish to them, so they're like basically silver, and they look super cool. So we were using those for the first few iterations of our game with the Game Crafter components. What I ended up doing is once we knew that we're pretty much getting there, and once we landed on this design of these guys, I knew this wasn't going to change just because they look so awesome, is I actually talked to my factory in China and just said, hey, look, I need some meeples. Will you charge me for like 1,000 of these guys? Right? And I'll just take a bag and I'll split them up and we'll make different iterations of our game with those. It was cheaper than you think. I think I paid like, might have been $250. But then I had more than enough meeples for when we were doing prototype nights, and they just look so much better on the board, right? They actually look like, oh wow, this looks like a real game. So my philosophy is the more you can make something look like a real game when you're playing during prototyping, the better chance you have that people are gonna spend some time and interact with you on that game and kind of get immersed in it, right? So for me, I like the story, right? So I was talking about earlier that these the time chasers or time splicers, it's trying to create a vibe so people feel like they're kind of getting immersed in the story, and then they're more open to give you feedback on the mechanics, I find. Whereas if it's kind of just straight mechanics, so stick men on paper, it's tougher for them to kind of see the forest through the trees, if that makes sense. How long was Seas of Venus in development? That's a great question. Seas of Venus is in development for 3 years. So we came up with that idea 3 years ago. It was before COVID, right? So, and that was simply, we were playing, I think it was Chai, I'm almost positive it was Chai Tea that we're playing. So I just received my Kickstarter copy of Chai Tea. Fun game. And that one's got like a kind of a central market where you're fulfilling tea orders, right? Yeah, the good old days prior to, yeah, exactly. Those were the good old days before COVID. And I'm a big cosmology geek. I love cosmology and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all this kind of stuff. And I was reading an article about how there's a selection of scientists around the world that were saying that we should be focusing on Venus and not on Mars. And it was like a case study. The whole article is a case study as to why Venus is better place for us to check out than Mars. And to go through this really quickly, Mars is 2/3 the gravity of Earth, so you're gonna have bone density loss. Anybody goes there might be tough for them to come back. Hard on your heart and everything like that. Venus, same size as Earth, same gravity. If you're 50 kilometers up, although you can never be on the surface because it's an inferno and the pressure is like 4 times that of the deepest part of our ocean, the Mariana Trench. So anything that's been sent there has been crushed within minutes. There's only been 5 pictures ever taken from the surface of Venus, and those were by Russian probes that were sent in the 70s. Only 5 pictures exist of the surface, and those probes, again, destroyed within minutes. But 50 kilometers up, which is roughly, I think, 31 miles maybe, it's very Earth-like. So the temperature is very similar to Earth. Atmospheric pressure is the same as sea level here on Earth, so you don't have to worry about pressurized suits. You don't have to worry about if there's a tear in the ship having a rapid decompression like you'd have on Mars, because there's virtually no atmosphere on Mars. It has a lot going for it. Enough cloud cover above you to act as a insulation against UV radiation. You really have the only thing that you really don't have is you can never touch the ground. So very tough to get resources. We're on Mars. Obviously, you can mine the regolith there and pull the iron out of the ground, and you can make. You have to figure out how to keep the cities floating. Well, here's the cool thing about this. And there's been a bunch of scientists that actually did the studies on this, and they had started drafting up plans in the 70s on this too. Is that breathable air? If it was in like a tube, like a torus shape, would actually support quite a bit of weight at 50 kilometers up, because the clouds are so thick from the surface up to that point. Like they said, for instance, if you fell and didn't die, right? If you fell into the clouds from 50 kilometers, it would take you something like an hour and a half to hit the surface. That's how thick the atmosphere is going down. So it's very real. You'd be able to, it's kind of like you see in Empire Strikes Back. Like you could actually, if you had a large enough platform that had our breathable air in it, that would be able to hold enough weight. And then you don't tether it. So you just go with the regular, kind of clouds as they circle the planet. So you have least stress on your, I did a lot of reading on this. You'd have the least stress on your city. And so your days, you'd actually go around that planet 4 times in a day. So you'd have to kind of get used to your circadian rhythm being a little bit different than here on Earth. But man, it's very Earth-like there. It's actually closer too. So the launch window is something like every 9 months to get for Venus, and it only takes, I think it's like a 3-month journey. Where Mars is like every 2 years is the launch window, and it's a 6-month journey. Venus has got it's got a lot going for it, but you don't have water there, so you have to find a way to get water. That's kind of a biggie. And there's been some things they've been talking about, maybe try to capture an asteroid, try to capture a comet and put it into orbit, and that'd give you all the water you need. Mars right now, they actually, I think it was a year ago, they sent a probe. So they actually have a box. It's what they say. It's about the size of like a bread box. And it's on the surface of Mars right now. And it is taking out of, it's got like a 2%, their atmosphere is like 2% of what Earth's atmosphere is, right? So it's virtually non-existent, but there is an atmosphere there. Enough that they can pull CO2 out of the air. And they've got this bread box that's actually, as a proof of concept, shown they've been able to create rocket fuel from the air, from doing their, and being able to create oxygen as well. So they know that that's the one great thing that Mars has going for it. Although everything else is horrible, the one good thing is the thing we need is breathable air and water. You could pull that out of the air if you had the right equipment, and you would send the equipment there ahead of time, let it just run for 2 years. So when you get there, you've got all the air and all the water you need. Likewise, your habitats you could build out of the rock, and you could do 3D print your habitats, right? We're a little bit tougher to do that when you're floating in clouds around Venus. So there's different the pros and cons of each, but you got to kind of figure out what's best for you. So, but that's it. So I appreciate it if you guys check out the page for Cities of Venus. It's on Kickstarter right now. Love your support. Even $1 helps. It helps us get our backer count up and helps us push the algorithms. Right now we're sitting at 874 backers. We got 16 days to go, and we're at $93,600. So, thank you so much. We're super excited about it, and we're going to keep doing these lives every few days and keep the questions going, man. Anything's on the table. We can, especially if you want to geek out over game design. Cities of Venus is our 9th title. We've got another one called Catnip Auction House, which comes out. That's going to be, that's our 8th title. We've got 9 titles that we've published. So there's a little bit of experience under our belt now, as well as I run the Board Game Binge podcast. So if you go to Board Game Binge, anywhere you download your favorite podcast, you find it there. We've had 238 episodes. We talk to different designers, publishers, game creators, anything to do with games. Every week, and it's only 30 minutes. It's bite-sized, so you can listen to an episode while you brush your teeth or on the way to work. And I really appreciate the follows and the subs. Anyway, guys, all the best. Happy Mother's Day to everyone, and have a fantastic